Hey everyone, and welcome to your step-by-step guide for Project 3. You know that feeling when you've poured your heart into creating something, and then you have that moment of, okay, but will anyone actually get it? Well, if you've ever felt that, you are in the right place. We're going to break down this whole pre-testing thing so you have all the tools you need to make sure your podcast doesn't just get heard, it truly connects.
Okay, so you've done the hard work. You've scripted, you've recorded, you've edited, your podcast is ready to go. But, and this is the big question, is your audience ready for it? Will your message actually land the way you want it to? That is exactly what pre-testing is for. It's like building a bridge between your amazing idea and how your audience actually experiences it.
So here's our game plan for today. First, we're going to talk about why this is so important. Then we'll jump into the nitty-gritty, how to pick your focus areas, how to build a killer pre-testing guide, and the do's and don'ts for running your session. And of course, we'll wrap up with some final reminders and let you know where to go if you need a hand. Let's do this.
All right, first up, why bother with pre-testing at all? Well, it's the difference between just making something and making something that matters. This is the step that moves your project from being just a thing you created to a thing that genuinely connects with people. It's how you make sure your message hits home.
This quote right here says it all. You've been living and breathing this podcast for weeks, right? You're an expert on it. But that also means you're way too close to it. I'm going to say this loud and clear because it's so important. You are not the target market. The only way to know what they really think is to get out of your own head and just ask them. Okay, time to make your first big decision. You can't possibly test for everything, so you've got to be smart about it. For this project, you need to pick 2 to 3 key areas to really dig into. Think of these like different camera lenses. Each one will give you a totally different but super valuable view of how well your podcast is working.
Our first potential lens is comprehension. And honestly, it's the most basic one. It all boils down to one simple question. Do they get it? Not just did they hear the words, but did they truly understand the main point you are trying to make?
So how do you test this? It's pretty straightforward. The absolute best question is, in your own words, what was the main takeaway here? If they can play your message back to you accurately, boom, you nailed it. But if they're kind of struggling or they get it wrong, that's not on them. That's your cue to go back and make your message clearer.
All right, next up we have attractiveness. This is all about the vibe, the style, the feel of your podcast. Was it, interesting? Did it pull you in? Because let's be real, you can have the clearest message in the world, but if it's boring, people are just going to tune out. With these questions, you're digging into the fun, creative stuff. Ask what part grabbed their attention. Was it a story? A specific fact? Why? Asking if the language spoke to them is such a great way to check if your tone feels authentic. This is the feedback that helps make your podcast not just something people listen to, but something they remember.
Now for our third lens, acceptability. This one is the reality check. Your podcast probably gives some advice or suggests an action, right? Maybe it's visiting a website or trying a wellness tip. Acceptability asks, is that advice actually realistic for a busy university student? Is it something they could or would actually do? These questions are pure gold. That last one, is the proposed solution something you could see yourself doing, is everything. If they say, probably not, you need to know why. Is it too hard? Too time-consuming? Does it just sound weird to them? This is how you make sure your advice is genuinely helpful, not just wishful thinking. Okay, let's talk about identification. This one is all about that personal connection. When someone listens, are they thinking, wow, that sounds exactly like me, or I know someone just like that? That's the goal. That's when you know your message has truly hit home on a personal level. Relatability is huge. And hey, that last question, who do you think this podcast is for, is a little bit of a secret weapon. It's a fantastic way to see if you hit your target. If they describe your target audience perfectly, a Brock student dealing with stress, you're on the right track. If they describe someone else entirely, it's a sign you need to tweak your content.
And our final lens is persuasion. This is really the bottom line, isn't it? After all is said and done, after someone listens to your podcast, are they actually more likely to do the thing you're suggesting? This measures whether your podcast has the power to inspire real action. These questions get right to the impact. Asking what they'll do differently is a direct measure of behavior change. And asking how they'd explain it to a friend, that tells you if your message is clear, compelling, and maybe even shareable. This is how you find out if your podcast is not just informative, but truly persuasive.
So, you've picked your 2 or 3 areas to focus on. Awesome. Now it's time to build your pre-testing guide. Seriously, think of this as your script. It's your secret weapon for running a focused, professional session that gets you exactly the kind of juicy, useful feedback you need.
A really good guide has a simple 5-step flow. It's kind of like having a normal conversation. You've got the welcome, the start, you confirm they're ready, you ask your main questions, and then you have a nice, clean close. Following these steps will make your session run so smoothly. Let's look at each one.
First things first, the welcome. Your number one job here is to make people feel comfortable and relaxed. So introduce yourself, thank them for their time, and make it super clear this is just a class project, not some scary formal study. The most important thing you can say is, there are no right or wrong answers here. We really just want your honest opinion. That gives them permission to be totally candid.
Okay, next up is the start. You want to give them just a tiny bit of context about Cope Care Connect, but, and I can't stress this enough, don't tell them what your podcast is about. You want their genuine first impressions. Then comes a critical, non-negotiable step, confirm. You have to make absolutely sure that every single person has listened to the whole podcast or read the entire script before you ask a single question. Their feedback is useless otherwise.
And now for the main event, your questions. This is where all your prep work comes into play. Stick to your guide. It'll keep you focused and on time. Once you have all your answers, it's time for the close. This isn't just, okay, bye. Thank them again genuinely for their help. Then ask if they have any questions for you. It's a polite, professional way to wrap things up.
All right, your guide is built, your participants are lined up, you are ready to rock. Now let's just go over a couple of simple but really important rules for actually running your session. Think of these as the non-negotiables.
Rule number 1 is about numbers. You must pre-test with a minimum of 4 university students. 4 is the magic number to make sure you're getting a decent range of perspectives for your report.
Okay, this next one is a biggie. A huge one. You have to do this through live interviews or focus groups. They can be in person or on video, that's fine. What you absolutely positively cannot do is send out a survey. Why? Because in a conversation you can ask, "Oh, that's interesting, can you tell me more about that?" You can dig deeper. You just can't get that rich, detailed feedback from a survey. And as we wrap this up, just a couple of final pro tips. Your guide is your best friend. Use it to stay on track. And please take detailed notes. You will be so glad you did when it's time to write your report. But the most important thing to remember is that you are not on your own with this. If you get stuck, if you're not sure about your questions, just reach out to Dr. Lawrence or your TA, Megan Robinson. We are here to help you succeed. You can do this.